Welcome back, F-Bombers. Back to another episode here with a very special guest of mine, Mary, who I'll introduce in 2 seconds. But we're here to really talk about something that I've struggled with for a while now, and I still continue to struggle with. I don't think it's something that's ever kind of goes away, so to speak, but I think Mary has some great advice, I'm sure. And we're going to talk about finding your own voice, particularly as a woman in leadership. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Christina. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So advantageous. We met literally like a few weeks ago, and I was like, you got to come on the show. So Mary, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background, because I know you've had some dealings within business, the business sector, and really tell us where it's led you today.
Well, I'm going to start with where it's led me. So right now, I'm a nonfiction book coach. So I help people turn their experience into a message. So in many ways, I help authors or aspiring authors find their voice. Now, my background is a mix of creative and technical and process. So I come from the corporate world. I've been in real estate very early, insurance and benefits, and then I had a legal career in trademarks. And then I left that career to join technology because I was very curious and fascinated by the world of technology. And I just recently left the corporate world. I took an opportunity for early retirement, and I did it in favor of entrepreneurship. So I had already had my business as a side hustle, very focused on freelance writing and life coaching. And now, once I've left the corporate world, I'm more focused on the book coaching.
That's interesting. So when I went to visit your website a while back, one of the two things popped up. One was life coaching, and the other one was ghostwriting. So tell us a little bit about what ghostwriting is, and then what life coaching is.
So ghostwriting, it's so good that we're doing this right before Halloween too, right?
Boo.
Just a very, very timely. So ghostwriting is me getting into my client's head. So I'm going to take their voice really from their head and put it into mine. And I'm going to become them so I can write for them and as them. So there's a lot of pre-work that you would do with ghostwriting because you really need to become the person that you're writing for, because they're they're putting it online or into a book or wherever they're putting it as themselves. So I have to do a lot of that work and find out, who they are, who their audience is. So that's ghostwriting. And that's fun. I still do some of that too. Now, life coaching. Okay, life coaching is life coaching, first of all, is not therapy. It's not psychotherapy. That's a really important distinction because I do have a lot of people coming to me that are looking for dealing with their past, dealing with past traumas, dealing with childhood, dealing with things that are in the past. A life coach will take you from where you are now to where you want to go. We would address the barriers that are blocking you. So a lot of people would come to me because they're stuck. Maybe their career is stuck and they want to figure out, what's going on? What's stopping me? Is it me or is it those people? So a life coach is really going to take you from A, where you are now, to B, where you want to go, through some goal setting really, and through some assessment and action and good results.
Okay, so both of those things are really relevant to my next question, which is we're talking about finding your own voice, right? And you get it. You ask all these relevant questions as a ghostwriter to find the voice of your author, and then you're life coaching people, right, to find their path, their voice, their whatever it is, right? So talk to me. What does it mean to find your voice?
So I think, obviously not the literal sense. It's really knowing yourself, knowing who you are and how you are. So not hi, how are you, but how am I going to show up in the world? Like how do you show up and how do you want to show up? So if I'm coaching somebody through that, it is, okay, how are you showing up now? And how do you want to show up? And what's the gap in between those two things? Same thing for when I'm coaching somebody on writing content. Whether in my corporate life it was writing PowerPoint presentations, very similar, just expanded for book coaching. So it's really about showing up in alignment with who you are, and if you want to find your voice, like we all have a voice, it's finding it and defining it. Maybe is a better word. Defining your voice. So defining who you are, that would lead into an exploration of what are your values? What are your values? What are your interests? What are your experiences? And how do we hone that into an both inward and an outward facing persona?
Okay, so interesting. This is something I've struggled with. And do you think that your voice or who you think you are changes as you progress in your own path?
Yes, it does change. I mean, there's transitions that are imposed upon you, and then there's a natural evolution of life because of what's happening around you or what's happening inside you. So it's a natural thing to change. And I think it's good to have a checkpoint every couple of years of how do I want to show up now? How did I show up then? How do I want to show up now? So I think there's an element of deliberation and intentionality. But naturally, things might change. And our behaviors are and our actions are a reflection of who we are.
So, without giving away kind of like your secret sauce recipe, what are some of the aspects you explore with people to help them find who they are? Because undoubtedly, I'm sure you've met people who just don't know who they are, right? And they know how they want to portray themselves, but is that really who they should be or who they think they should be? So what are those aspects you explore?
So I think, the main one is values. What are your core values that you want to guide you and that do guide you? So I think definitely.
Give me
Sorry, go ahead.
examples of values. What values would you think of?
Freedom, empowerment, integrity, although I think that's also, more than a value. Staying true to yourself, resilience would be another core value, kindness, service to others. And if any of your listeners are interested, you can type into Google or your favorite AI, Gen AI bot, give me a list of 100 values, and then you can go and circle what are the top
That's
5.
a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And through your life, like this season of your life, these 5 values might be your priority. But maybe 10 years ago, you still have those values, but they're in a different priority. You're stacking them differently. So it's important to know what are your top 3 or your top 5 or your top 10, because that's the guideline really that you can live from.
So once people have these kind of core values that they've identified, how do they enact them, Mary? Like, do you give them kind of like a guidebook?
So not really a guidebook. It's having, they can use stickies. I have got tons of stickies around that when they're in meetings or whatever, that you can have these things sitting up and being your guide. So I think a lot of it is awareness of how you show up in front of people. So how do you show up in the external noise? How do you show up with what's going on inside you? And it's kind of like, the one exercise I do have for people is find a mentor that you admire and who you want to be like. And I'm not saying copy them, but analyze them a little bit. So something I used to do in the corporate world was when I was in a meeting, a virtual meeting especially, which was great because you had video uh, cues as well, is when they introduce themselves, how do they do that? What are they doing? What specifically are they doing? And then take notes. And then see if you can emulate that in your next meeting or maybe, sometime later on in the meeting. So a little bit is copying. Um, I think listening, really listening to other people and listening to yourself, because a lot of times you can read between the lines of what people are saying. And then how are you reacting in your body viscerally? And how are you reacting uh, in your thoughts? So, and record that.
I love that because that takes an act of self-reflection, like constant self-reflection. And I've heard on more than one occasion that it's, as a leader, it's always great to kind of journal, basically. And it doesn't have to be every day, right? It can be in the style that you're comfortable with. You could be talking into a phone. You could be whatever it is, right? But that act of self-reflection is really what makes you cognizant of not only the mentors, but the actions that have happened through the week. And we talk a lot about mentors on this show, and it's been mentioned I don't know how many times, right? But they're so valuable, right? They shape you, they guide you, they give you those little tidbits, and they are essentially a mirror for you.
And yes, definitely a mirror. I think that is a great way to put it. And they can be, and you don't actually have to engage them as a mentor. So there are people online, somebody that you admire, whoever it is, that can be I call them your celebrity mentors. And then you can invoke them if you get to know them enough and observe them enough. You can invoke them when you need to.
So it's funny because you say that because I had an instance. Mel Robbins, right?
Yes,
So everybody
yes.
knows Mel Robbins and the famous book she's written, the Let Them Theory, right? And I read that probably like 2 months ago, and a lot of it has resonated, and it's very simple. Like it's not a new concept; it's just simple. But every day she sends like words of advice, right, through her Instagram account, and sometimes I take them and sometimes I leave them. Right? Like it doesn't resonate with me. But it's right. There's those celebrity kind of mentors that you have. And so you get to know them and you get to know some of the people who are right with you every day. Right. And you take tidbits. But again, it's that self-reflection piece, I think. So what about, what are the challenges then? I know I've had a hard time sometimes finding what my voice is, particularly in different contexts, for example. And you say like different environments shape you, right? And they have an impact on you. What are some of the challenges you've heard from some of your clients in doing that, finding their own voice?
So I think there's challenges. There's the external challenges, the internal challenges. Your environment, friction, unconscious biases of the people that you're dealing with. So an example of environmental friction perhaps could be, and this is something that I experienced early on in my career, in the legal and both the technical world, was I'm in a boys club, right? I've joined a boys club. There's not many visible female leaders at that time. There is now. It's changed now. So for me to succeed in that kind of environment, I need to understand the environment. What are the rules of the game in general, right? What are the rules of the game, and how do I want to show up in that environment? Do I want to be the helpful person? Like what kind of I guess interactions do I want to have? And I mean, for me, a lot of it is a case of curiosity. I think curiosity is a really good skill. Be curious and listen.
Yeah. And two things I find sometimes that people don't always do well, right, is ask questions and how to listen without responding,
Yes.
right? That's or active listening or whatever it's called, right?
Active listening. That's exactly what it is. Active listening. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So Mary, as a woman who's trying to, really grow in her leadership path, what are some pieces of advice you would give to women who are kind of pursuing leadership or in leadership positions when it comes to finding their own voice?
Yeah. So I think, number one, and we already covered this, is knowing yourself, knowing your values and what's really important to you, what matters to you. Because the worst thing that can happen is you're emulating somebody that is not close enough to your values. And then you become somebody that you don't recognize and you're not acting out of your integrity. So that would be number one. Know yourself, know your values, listening. Now, confidence, because I find confidence can be a barrier for many of us, especially when you're thrown into a situation through maybe restructuring, something that you didn't plan or plan for. Um, and I find that confidence, it's going to grow from, competence, number one. So if you find that in a certain situation or certain tasks or certain roles, you're not that competent, build your competence, right? Find out, do what you need to do um, in order to be able to be successful in that and be confident. So mentors and sponsors, we already talked about that. So in the corporate world, you can get to a certain level without sponsors. Mentors are important, but once you're getting into the middle management, especially the C-suite, um, a sponsorship is very important. So I think it's important to get to know who are the people that you should know that will support you when you start applying for or even working on projects that require um, uh, require some sponsorship, because sponsorship is very important in the corporate world, and I'm sure it's important in the academic world as well.
I think and I think it depends on what levels you're looking at in the academic world, but for sure it's, both of those things. Mentorship at any level, I think is important, and sponsorship for sure as you're getting kind of higher up. Let's talk about competence a little bit, because you said something there where it was just become competent in the areas that you don't feel that you're competent in. Right? Does that not involve like a characteristic of being unafraid to at least pursue or learn some of those things?
Yes, and I think confidence, like if you want to be confident in something, start with your confidence to learn and be a learner and be a lifelong learner. That that's one of the easiest ways to diffuse the fear and diffuse a feeling of imposter syndrome, as it's called out there in the world. Um, I I don't think imposter syndrome is a problem. I think it's fine if you enter a role where you don't feel that. So yeah, being confident will definitely diffuse um, the fears around that. And there's so many ways to find out what skills can I acquire, what thing do I need to learn um, immediately, and then going forward in the long term, and put it in your goals. Like if you're in the corporate world and you have a development plan as part of your job, put it in there. Put some goals in there. Say, I want to get better at public speaking. I want to get better at presentations. I want to get better at storytelling. Make it a goal.
So it's interesting because I have my PhD, right? And so people are always like, oh, you must be so smart. You must be so smart. And I'm like, the PhD, you're smart in one area, right? You don't know a lot about a lot of other areas. But the one thing I'll tell you is that what they don't tell most academics is that what they're teaching you in terms of soft skills is undeniably like some of the best golden nuggets I've ever had, right? Which is, love of learning, right? And not being afraid to ask questions and researching and, all those things that I think are important to leadership building, right? And presentation skills, where you need some of those things, right? So everything you've just said just kind of hits home in a lot of aspects, right? So I know, I'm sure I have a voice. I mean, clearly my kids and my husband think I have a voice.
Yeah.
Right? But certainly I know what my value sets are. And like you've said, they've changed. They change depending on where I am in my lifespan and what's going on at work, at home, whatever it might be, right? So, we're coming to an end of our conversation. What are some of the golden nuggets you want to leave with the rest of our viewers?
One golden nugget, I think, for women is lead from contribution and not your ego. So sure, a title feels good, but think about lead from a place of contribution. What can I contribute to this task, to this company, to this team, to the people that I'm leading? Because they're people, and they will remember. They will remember your leadership for years to come. So that's one thing. Lead from contribution, and not ego. Now, one other little nugget. People talk a lot about authenticity, right?
We've heard it a lot.
So I do believe in being authentic to yourself and being in integrity with yourself. But there are times that you can still be true to yourself and still show up in the way that you want other people to see you. So you can control the narrative as to what people say about you when you walk into a room, or what they say about you when they're doing their bonus calibrations at the end of the year. So I think authenticity is not always the goal, or shouldn't always be the goal. I think alignment is maybe a better general goal.
Love that. I think that's a great way to end the conversation. Mary, it has been a big pleasure for me to have you on today. And this has been like a exercise and enlightenment, a philosophical kind of trail ride. I love it. Tell everybody where they can go if they're ever interested in your services.
Sure. So you can go to mkranger.com. That is my website. Or you can find me on LinkedIn under Mary Kay. And actually what I'll do is I'll send you my profile link, because there are a million Mary Kays on LinkedIn, as you can imagine.
I can imagine. Yeah. Totally. Thanks for watching and listening in, everybody. And until next time, we'll see you.